We are going live to Colombia. Gustavo Petro is sworn in as president of that South American country. We are watching live images from Bogota Square. President-elect Gustavo Petro just arrived at the square for the ceremony that is about to begin shortly. We can see hundreds of people, thousands of people have gathered to welcome the new president, to welcome the new era of Colombia, the era of Petro and the era of Francia Marquez, who together will rule the country for the next 40 years. We are watching images of Petro as he's arrived. And Colombia's president-elect Gustavo Petro will be sworn in this Sunday in presence of distinguished personalities from around the world and some 100,000 Colombians that are expected here at the square in downtown Bogota. A different ceremony is expected today with high political, emotional, and cultural content, with special guests such as the street sweeper of Medellin, Kelly Garces, who was noticed on social networks during the electoral campaign for defending a photo of Petro in her garbage car, despite the rejection of some people, including family members. As of today, Colombia changes. It is another. It is not a change to take revenge or to create more hatred. This is what Petro said in his first speech after being elected by more than 11 million Colombians, a record in Colombian elections history. International media points out that it is significant that after many years of exclusions, persecutions, and assassinations, a revolutionary and former combatant will brandish the sword of the liberator Simón Bolívar in the Casa de Nariño. This is how they refer to the House of Government where the president lives. The Colombian left and will deploy a government of national conciliation. The ceremony is attended by the president of Bolivia, Luis Arce, also by the president of Chile, Gabriel Boric, of Costa Rica, Rodrigo Chavez, Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, Honduras, Xiomara Castro. The King of Spain, Philip VI, is also present at the ceremony today. Petro takes over from Ivan Duque, one of the most unpopular presidents on the continent, with a 70% disapproval rating and a sad legacy of violence and non-compliance with the 2016 Havana Peace Accords.
En este momento, el presidente electo Gustavo Petro hace su ingreso a la tarima principal de la Plaza de Bolívar de Bogotá.
The former mayor of Bogota comes to power at the age of 62, with 50.47% of the votes cast in the June's election. We are seeing Petro right now, images of his arrival to the ceremony. He's greeting all the people present here. They are here to welcome him to this new era of Colombia's government. That we must remember that for the first time in its history, a leftist candidate won the presidential race. So Colombia will have for the first time a leftist president, a leftist government.
Celebrando la llegada de Gustavo Petro y nos vamos a conectar con, mire, ahí estamos viendo cómo el presidente saluda.
We're watching images how the president is greeting all the special guests here for his ceremony, for the swearing-in ceremony. Gustavo Petro takes office with the mission of transforming the country into a land where a life of dignity, free of violence and with peace as a paradigm are our priorities, with solid social justice and climate issues, among other core issues. That is why from the very first minute of his term, his government plan will be based on the premise of promoting this transition and laying the foundations for development in terms of eradicating inequality, halting the economic recession, and combating climate change.
Escuchemos esta imagen, escuchémosla.
Sí, yo tengo audio. En este este momento damos paso al presidente del Congreso, Roy
Se pudo. Esta realmente es la tercera candidatura y en esta sí se pudo.
En esta sí se pudo.
Sí se pudo y ahí vamos a escuchar entonces el acto protocolario.
Del Congreso Pleno. Siguiente punto del orden del día.
Siguiente punto del orden del día, señor presidente. Himno nacional
National
de la República
Anthem of the Republic of Colombia.
Siguiente punto del orden del día, señor presidente.
Next
Toma
point,
de juramento al
investiture,
presidente de la República
swearing in
electo, doctor
to the elect President of Colombia,
Petro Urrego,
Petro
por parte
Urrego,
del señor presidente del Congreso
by
de la
the
República,
President of the
ciudadano
Congress,
senador Roy Leonardo Barreras Montealegre,
Roy
presidente
Bernardo
del Congreso de la
Montalegre,
República de
President of the Congress of Colombia.
Invocando la protección
Invoking the protection of God,
de esta corporación que
we swear
representa al
before
pueblo
this
de
corporation
Colombia
representing the people of Colombia
y legalmente con los deberes
to
que
abide
encargó
faithfully with the duties of the charge of the presidency of the Republic in agreement with the Constitution. I swear to God and I promise the people to abide by faithfully with the Constitution and the laws of Colombia. If I didn't, God and this corporation demand from me. I call now. I now call a daughter of the left, a daughter of history. This history interrupted by the murderous bullets. But you retake the cause. And a new dove of peace, Mr. President, a dove of peace, of total peace.
Las 21 salvas de saludo al señor presidente.
21 shots in salute of a president. Mr. Secretary, next point in the hours. The swearing in of the President to the Vice President of Colombia, Dr. Francia Elena Márquez Mira, by the President of Colombia, Gustavo Francisco Petro. As President of Colombia, I request of the military house to bring the sword of Bolivar. An order of the popular mandate and of this mandatory. I swear before the people, before the Congress, and before the state, summoning the protection of God, you solemnly swear before this corporation that represents the people of Colombia to abide by with the duties that the charge of Deputy President of the Republic demands of you in accordance with the Constitution. I swear to God and the people to abide by faithfully with the Constitution and the laws of Colombia. I also swear before my ancestors until dignity becomes a custom. In this moment, the projection of Colombia before the memory, a work that's been going on for more than 27 years by the photographer Mauricio Perez all around our country. This has been a portrait of the Colombian conflict. It makes us conscious that as a society we are precisely the reflection of ourselves.
Señor secretario,
Mr. Secretary, next point in the hours. Next point, Mr. President. Next point, Mr. President. Words of the President Roy Leonardo Barreras. Dr. Gustavo Petro, President of the Republic. Mrs. Veronica Alcocer Garcia, First Lady of the Nation. Children Sofia, Antonella, Andres. Your distinguished parents, Don Gustavo and Doña Clara. And the citizen, Francia Elena Marquez, Deputy President of the Republic of Colombia, her distinguished family, His Majesty King Felix VI of Spain, presidents of Chile, Ecuador, Dominican Republic, Bolivia, Paraguay, Honduras, Costa Rica, Argentina, their distinguished wives, excellent First Minister of Curaçao, Her Excellence, representative of the President of the United States of Mexico, President of El Salvador, Panama, República Oriental de Uruguay, and Iran, their excellencies, former presidents, Secretary of States, President of international organizations, and chiefs of mission, President of the National Assembly of Algeria, President of the Parliamentary League of Japan-Colombia Friendship, Archbishop of Bogota, former President of Colombia, former Deputy President of the Republic, former Deputy President of the Congress, former ambassadors, Dr. David Razaro Mayorga, Deputy President of the Congress of the Republic, Supreme Court of Justice, National Council, and National Commission of Judicial Discipline, senators, and members of the Señor Fiscal General de la Nación, Señora Procuradora General de la Nación, Señor Contralor General de la República, Señor Registrador Nacional del Estado Civil, Señor Defensor del Pueblo, Defender of the People, General Commander of the Army, Commander of the Armed Forces, Air Force of Colombia, and General Director of the Police, Accountant of the Nation, Honorable Citizens, Senators of the Republic, Representative Magistrates of the High Courts, Mayors of Colombia, Directors and CEOs of national enterprises, deputies, ediles, social leaders, representative of the ethnic, religious, and multicultural organization, Colombian citizens that are with us from the different points of our geography, journalists of national and international media, Simón, Lorenzo, Alejandro, my sons, ladies and gentlemen, in such a Sunday, but at 2 a.m. in the morning, 84 people, children, women, and men, died roasted after a guerrilla in Machuca. In a Saturday as yesterday, 119 human beings died after a bomb as a result of a combat between the army and the guerrilla. It's a wound in our heart. It's a beautiful town. Half a hundred cows had disappeared. They decided that for Every cow disappeared, 2 human beings should die. 43 human beings were killed. Hundreds were killed, hundreds were displaced. 6,406 innocents murdered. So many wounds in Colombia's heart, in this skin, in this beautiful country. Hundreds and thousands of soldiers and military, young men and women, simple public servers whose families we don't know, but still suffer from generated for this because of this suffering generated for this drug trafficking curse. Where do we come from? What history do we have? Colombians that watch us from their TVs. What history do we come from? It would be nice to celebrate such Sunday, a joyful Sunday, without wounds, without scars. But we come from these old scars. We come from these farmers. We come from this displaced, from this unrooted, from this unemployed, from these artisans, from these farmers, from these humble people, from these abandoned people, from these invisible people, denied people in 2,000 years of a republic. They haven't had a state that protects them. A state. 9 civil wars in the 19th century, and in the middle of these fratricide wars, there were still voices that defend humanism, voices that dreamed with the possibility of stop the war, the killing, the violence, voices that defended the liberal democracy. That's what we are here to do today, to try to stop the death and turn Colombia into a world power of life. Try to heal these wounds. That's what we are here to do today. To heal them, we need to know them. We need to remember them. We need to know what's the truth and what's the cause of it. We come from there. We come from a history with great voices, but that only now find their way to vindication. What a curious thing. 170 years before Mariana Mazzucato, a Colombian man, just blocks from here, already said that states should reduce the cost, take the risk, the decision a state to compete, pendant decision. Mazzucato is right, of course. Of course, states cannot be only regulators, but also engines of society, stimulators of free enterprise. But for that, states must first insist to exercise the power with legitimacy, to stop the war, to stop the violence, to stop misery, to stop death. But what brings us here today? We come from this history of an absent state, these liberal ideas that survived, the liberalism of 19th century, the one that got those slaves free, the one that survived the Bananas Massacre. I am a convinced liberal, a son of this history, but that's not what brought us here today, this Sunday. Because that story, the one of a birth of state, has been always present. However, this claim had never been able to become popular government. We are here today thanks to a popular mandate, a river, the energy of a people that till tired raised their voices and said, "No more. We are able to free our own destiny. We could do it." And they found a man that embodied that people, a woman that embodied that people. Men and women embodied that voice. And for the first time in its 200 years of Republican lives, rulers of the world that hears us, for the first time a progressive leftist government has come to Colombia. That has a historical meaning, a huge historical meaning. It's a rupture, it's a breaking up with history. The claim, the pain, the absence and the poverty coexisted with hegemony, with power groups, with fake social cures. They couldn't heal the starvation. With the ones who said that we could keep advancing without healing these wounds, without closing the social gaps. It did it peacefully, and it proved that from the fruitless war we could never reach democracy. We dared to build a peace agreement in which the second point, pages 35 and 36. From this final agreement I had the honor to sign. This final agreement will contribute to democracy because it will imply the abandonment of weapons and violence as a method of political action for all Colombians, with full guarantees for the ones that participate in politics, new spaces for participation. This became a reality. We dare show the world that it was possible to cast the rifles aside, and then the illusion and the winds of peace were also the winds of popular mobilization. This is stronger in America than anywhere else, and in Colombia this social mobilization became power thanks to peace and despite war. That's why we come today to defend this peace legacy, and we come to tell, abandon the weapon. The triumph of Gustavo Petro is proof that political violence has no justification. Peace is the way, and now is the time. And to the drug traffickers, kill no more. If you continue killing social leaders, environmental leaders, and police leaders, there will be no peace. This popular mandate in favor of peace and in favor of a life with dignity, this mandate that demands social justice, has brought us to this square, and all squares in Colombia are celebrating this rebirth of hope in our country. Why are we here? What are we doing here? Not only to celebrate, we came to commit the state into a hope of life. Teachers, artists, may they sing, may they paint, and may the state be there to support them from popular culture. There's a country here willing to rebirth, be reborn, determined to share a common destiny with Latin America, a Latin American parliament binding, a one voice to the consuming world, contaminant world. We are demanding its responsibility with the destiny of humanity. We have water, we have air, we have food, and biodiversity that the world needs. But we also came to recover what we've lost. 4 years ago, despite difficulties, we had an unemployment rate of 9.4. Today it's 11.3. A poverty rate of 30%. The inequity, shame. But today is the one of 0.120. We had 500 in public debt. Today we have 700 billion. We were told then we have led a coca sea, 4,500,000. True change. The citizen has said it, son of a people. This man that became the voice of millions, citizen Gustavo Petro Borrego, that just sworn in as president of the Republic of Colombia. The true change are reforms, Dr. David Racero. Of course, reforms imply great responsibility of all of us. This is a session of the full Congress of Colombia, and this Congress is responsible for that change, because this is a calling for reforms, but it also has a mandate, the mandate of equilibrium. It seems impossible, but it's necessary. Change is the opposite of stability, but half a country demands the change, and the other half wants stability, warranties, and equilibrium. Reforms that guarantee the institutionality, but that also guarantee the true change. Reforms that channel that popular wish. Sometimes we have to demolish to rebuild. We have to answer to enormous expectations and a big debt. We also need to guarantee the independence of the Congress in front of, because without independence there's no democracy. We have a big obligation in the middle of this crisis of we need to rebuild the right state for the ones who have the blessing of faith in a superior being. Believing is resisting, according to Mario Mendoza. We believe it's possible the country is reborn, that women of African origin women feel that they have opportunities as well as young people, that are all citizens, trust again in a elderly age with dignity. Democracy can survive even to pandemics. That philosopher reminds us that the cabinet and all the ministers that take state, they are all very young. That's why we came here, to fulfill the popular mandate, to abandon this culture of death, to tell the world that whereas other countries invade, contaminate, abandon their climatic commitments, Colombia is decided to become a world power of life. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, next point in the hours. Next point in the hours, Mr. President. By order of the President of the Republic, we're going to take a recess of 10 minutes because the sword of Bolivar is coming. In the meantime, symphonic orchestra that is formed by musicians of all the orchestras in the country. Then we will listen to the words we've been waiting for, the words of the President of the Republic. A 10 minutes recess.
El discurso del presidente del Senado, Roy Barreras, quien después de terminar, pues acaba de dar un receso de 10 minutos mientras traen la espada de Bolívar. Ya el presidente, una vez posesionado, esa fue la primera orden presidencial que le dio a la Guardia Presidencial.
Now we are going to listen to the symphonic of the country as the delegations take a 10-minute recess because they are waiting for the arrival of the Sword of Bolivar, a highly symbolic symbol of the country. The president ordered the sword to be brought to the ceremony once he was sworn in. This is an important day for Colombia. It's a historic day of change, of what can be a great nation that can become in the future. As Roy Barrera said, a world power of life to empower all South America.
En estos minutos fue que la imposición de la banda la hizo María José Pizarro. Ella, como lo dijo Roy Barreras, es hija de la izquierda y de las causas que impone también un poco este nuevo...
Colombia is living an important day today, a historic change. For the first time in its history, the nation has a leftist progressive government that will bring about changes to the country infrastructure through its policies, and to lay these foundations and programs for the future. They are going to start changing all the infrastructure of the nation, all the new policies to take into account climate change, to take into account inclusivity, to take into account to erase inequality and bring closer the gap of difference between the society of Colombia. Petro's government will face crucial challenges: the implementation of the peace agreement signed by the state with the former FARC-EP, the fight against social inequality, economic recession, and policies against climate change. During his electoral campaign, Gustavo Petro raised the banners for the vindication of the rights of indigenous and farmer communities, as well as the fight against corruption and guarantees for rights such as health and education, reasons for which the now president won more than 11 million votes, a record in the history of elections in Colombia. Petro must also address social inequality, the commercialization of rights such as health and education.
María Teresa Gómez Arteaga es una pianista de música clásica y docente de gran trascendencia en el ámbito musical.
The commercialization of health and education has sparked that labor opportunities and development are going through a complex moment, and even more so now in a context where there are increases in cases of COVID-19. Likewise, the situation adds to the lack of guarantees for social leaders, who are the main victims of the social and armed conflict. In addition to the persecution of social leaders by irregular armed groups, the country faces the green phenomenon of massacres, especially perpetrated in rural territories. From 2019 to date, in the past report 313, which have left 1,192 fatal victims. The Minister of Education, appointed by Petro, Alejandro Gaviria, emphasized that the new government will guarantee access to science, especially in rural areas. At the same time, he announced that the report of the Truth Commission, which reviews the abuses committed in the conflict, will be made known in schools and colleges in favor of the truth of Colombian history. Gustavo Petro has emphasized during his campaign that he will work for the strengthening of the productive engines of the country. Among his measures is the protection of agriculture and increase of import rates. The president-elect asserts that the dialogue for reconciliation will focus on businessmen and landowners in order to focus policies towards production to increase access to consumption and employment. The economic crisis unleashed by Ivan Duque's policies and complemented by the COVID-19 pandemic leads to an unemployment rate of 15.2% in 2021, with the rural areas having the highest unemployment. The issue of climate change was not only alluded during the recent campaign by Petro. When he was mayor of Bogota, he undertook policies to preserve the environment. After the appointment of Susana Muhammad as Minister of Environment, the first announcement is the suspension of fracking, as well as future contracts for the exploration and exploitation of oil wells. Petro has explained that the purpose of the measure is to channel Ecopetrol to produce clean energies in accordance with international treaties, especially the Paris Agreement. However, in view of this context, still dependent on oil to generate foreign currency for the country, Petro has explained that the current oil extraction agreements will be maintained, but the shift in production will be carried out gradually.
Gustavo Petro están en un descanso, recordemos, debido a que van a traer la espada de Bolívar. El presidente, esa fue la primera orden que da Gustavo Petro como presidente de la República de Colombia. Y posterior a eso, pues escucharemos las tan anheladas palabras del presidente.
Pues tal vez ese discurso precisamente que vamos a escuchar en contados minutos tiene un gran protagonismo esta espada de Bolívar, por eso la necesita que esté ahí a su lado, al igual que el monumento.
Gustavo Petro takes office with an important mission, a mission of transforming the country into a land where a life of dignity, free of violence and with peace as a paradigm are priorities, with solid social justice and climate issues, among other core issues. That is why from the very first minute of his term, his government plan will be based on the premise of promoting this transition and laying the foundations for development in terms of eradicating inequality, halting the economic recession, and combating climate change. President Petro does not envision this change without a leading presence of women, who have been excluded in Colombian society, and to this end he plans that at least 50% of all public positions at all levels and branches of power will be held by women. The economic projection of the country will be a determining factor for the leader of the historic pact and the implementation of an agrarian and aquarian reform that will boost productivity under social and environmental justice canons.
Tiene especialización en Administración Pública de la ESAP, estudios en Máster de Economía de la Universidad Javeriana, estudios en especialización en Medio Ambiente y Desarrollo Poblacional en la Universidad Católica de Lovaina y estudios
Catholic University of Lovaina has a doctorate of
Universidad de Salamanca.
Enterprise and Management at the University of Salamanca.
El partido político Alianza Democrática M19,
The
movimiento que logró un
Political Alliance Party M19. With the support of this movement, Petro came to the representative chamber in 1994. He was a member of the embassy staff of Colombia in Denmark. From this
de oro en Córdoba, tiene 62
From this day forward, he'll live in the house of Nariño with 11,200,102 votes. He needs, the country needs a message with we're going to hear. If we take a look at the votes, 50% of Colombians supported him. The other 50% did not agree with him completely. We need this speech to have union words. We need it.
Es clave, José Fernando, para esa paz total que anhela y por la que va a trabajar, lograr.
We need this peace.
Tiene la capacidad de lograrla
And
también.
he needs to convince the people that he has this capacity of uniting them.
Muy bien, usted lo ha dicho, un discurso de unión. Atentos entonces acá. Ustedes
So
están viendo
let's pay attention. We are watching this investiture through the system.
We are continuing watching images. Remember, we are taking the delegates, the officials are taking a small recess as they are waiting for the arrival of the Sword of Bolivar. The Sword of Bolivar was supposed to be from the very beginning. However, outgoing President Iván Duque did not allow it to be transported to the site. But once President Petro took office and was sworn in as President of the Republic, his first command was to bring the sword to the ceremony. The Sword of Bolivar, of course, is a very important symbol of the nation.
Maybe in the first 100 days, they are not, economic indicators are not met. Of course, the need of adopting the necessary measures to launch the agreement, the launching of the participative process of the elaboration of the National Plan of Development that is going to benefit communities all over the country, together with the community. Also environmental topics as part of this investiture. We see it in the symbol of red, yellow, and blue butterflies. In these images we have observed one of the main pillars is protection of the environment, and also one of the most difficult things, the tribute reform. Through it, the necessary funds are going to be collected to help with all these campaigns. Also, the issue of corruption, so mentioned by our president, Gustavo Petro. There's a National Commission Against Impunity in Colombia, under the supervision of the Secretary General of the United Nations. Also, the issue of justice and its advancement, so more Colombians are benefit from it. We have 3 straight hours with this transmission. Francia Marquez is also very important. Every time they mention her, the people rejoices. Not only thanks to
galardonada con el Premio Nacional de Derechos Humanos en el 2015, el Premio Goldman, como lo decíamos anteriormente, en el año 2018, y es que desde los 15 años
We continue to wait for the arrival of the Sword of Bolivar at the ceremony site. We're watching images of Francia Marquez, a very important figure in Colombia's political landscape. She recently did a tour after the elections of South American countries to strengthen the bilateral ties and to work to create a plan to see how they can work together for the future of a unified Latin America that work and prosper for the benefit of its people. President Gustavo Petro was sworn in this Sunday in Bolivar Square.
En este momento les pedimos a todos los...
Teresita Gómez, maestra de piano, interpretaba, acompañaba este momento y estamos viendo ya desde la Casa de Nariño viene la Guardia Presidencial. Tenemos fallas en este momento.
And we were just enjoying a bit of music as we wait for the arrival of the SUR of Bolivar to the ceremony. And then we will listen to for the first time to President Gustavo Petro address the nation as President of Colombia.
Muchas gracias.
La Guardia de Honor trae hasta la Plaza de Bolívar la espada. Ahí está la espada.
And I believe we are seeing images of the sword moving towards the ceremony site. The sword is being carried by four men inside a glass case and is being transported to the site location of the ceremony where President Gustavo Petro is waiting for it. The sword of Bolivar, as we can imagine, is an important symbol of Colombia, of the nation. Represents liberty and the struggle for freedom and independence of a nation.
En presencia del nuevo presidente Gustavo Petro, quien también militó en el M19 y como usted bien lo decía, pues estaremos atentos.
Gustavo Petro was sworn in today at Bolivar Square in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, in the presence of over 100,000 Colombians who went there, who gathered there to see this historical moment, this historical change in power in Colombia. For the first time in its history, a leftist government takes office. Many international delegates, presidents of other countries such as Argentina, Bolivia, Costa Rica, and other countries of the region are present here today to witness this change in Colombia's history. The King of Spain, Philip VI, is also present at the ceremony. They're saying that the sword is ever getting closer to the ceremony site, to the square of Bolivar. The sword is being transported inside a glass case to preserve it, to protect it. During the day, people have gathered in different locations in Colombia to celebrate the swearing-in ceremony of Gustavo Petro as president. Different cultural events have been held in different parts of the country and especially in different parts of the capital city. We can listen to the people cheering as the sword makes its entrance to the ceremony site.
La espada de Bolívar, se vuelven otra vez a recuperar esos ánimos, hubo un momento de calma, de quietud, pero ya nuevamente se siente esa euforia de los colombianos que acompañan hoy al nuevo presidente Gustavo Petro.
And the sword has arrived. The sword of Bolivar has arrived to the ceremony site. So the ceremony is going to resume now that the sword has arrived.
Perdón, presidente. Señor secretario, suspendemos el receso. Se reinicia el orden del día. Siguiente punto del orden del día.
Next point of the hours.
El sonido. Señor presidente del Congreso.
Mr. President of the Congress. Next point of the hours. The words of the President of the Republic of Colombia, Dr. Gustavo Francisco Petro Urrego. This sword has so much history, and today one more story that why it took some time for it to take to the square. Deputy President of the Republic of Colombia, Francia Elena Márquez Mina, her father, Sigilfredo, her partner, Jerney, her children, Kevin and Carlos, her distinguished family, President of the Congress of Congo, Roy Leonardo Barreras, President of the Chamber of Representatives, David Ricardo Racero Mayorkas,
Rey del Reino de España, Majestad Felipe VI.
His Majesty Felix VI of Spain, President of Argentina Alberto Ángel Fernández and his wife Fabiola, President of Bolivia Luis Alberto Arce Catacora, excellent President of Chile Daniel Borifont and his wife Irina, excellent President of the Republic of Costa Rica Rodrigo Alberto de Jesús Chávez Robles, excellent First Minister, Prime Minister Gilmar Simón Pisas, excellent President of Ecuador Guillermo Lasso Mendoza, excellent President of the Republic of Honduras Xiomara Castro Sarmiento and her daughter and her son Héctor Zelaya, excellent Prime Minister of Guyana Mark Anthony Phillips, excellent President of the Dominican Republic Luis Rodolfo Corona and his daughter Esther Abinader, excellent President of the Republic of Paraguay Mario Abdo Benitez and his wife Silvana, personal representative of the President of the United States of Mexico Beatriz Gutierrez, honored guests Arnulfo Muñoz, Fisher of Honda Tolima, Catherine Hill, youth leader from Quibdó Chocó, Kelly Garcés, hygiene worker from Medellín, Rigoberto López, coffee farmer from Alcermas, Iván de Jesús Londoño, flower seller from Antioquia, Genoveva Palacios, walk-in seller from the Department of Chocó, Vice Presidents, Minister of Foreign Affairs, councilmen, diplomatic councilmen of the invited countries, Luis José Rueda Aparicio, Archbishop of Bogotá, President of the Episcopal Conference of Colombia, men of peace, leaders of the intersectoral religious organizations of Colombia, former presidents of the Republic, former first ladies of the nation, present or non-present, César Augusto Gaviria, Ana Milena, his wife, and Ernesto Sonder Pizano, his wife Jacqueline and his son Miguel, Juan Manuel Santos Candelor, and his wife Maria. His Eminence Luis Mariano Montemayor, Dean of the diplomatic body of the diplomatic body of the Vatican in Colombia, ambassadors, heads of the diplomatic missions, representative of the international organizations, ambassadors of Colombia in other countries, President of the Constitutional Court, Cristina Lessinger, President of the Supreme Justice Court, Haroldo Wilson Quiroz Gonzalvo, President of the State Council, Carlos Enrique Moreno Rubio, President of the Superior Council, Jorge Luis Trujillo Alfaro, President of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace, Eduardo Cifuentes Muñoz, President of the National Commission of Judicial Discipline, Diana Marina Vélez Vázquez, General Attorney of Nation, Francisco Barbosa Delgado, General Procurer of Nation, Margarita Leonor Cabello Blanco, Carlos Felipe Córdoba Larante, National Register of Civil State, Alexander Vega Rocha, People's Defender, Carlos Ernesto Camargo Asís, Ministers of Marshals of the State, General Luis Fernando Navarro, General Commander of the Army, General Jorge León González Parra, and his wife, General Jorge Luis Vargas Valencia, General Director of the Police, Major General Carlos Iván Moreno, Commander of the National Forces, Major General Pablo Enrique García Valencia, Commander of the Colombian Air Force, and his wife Gloria, Vice Admiral Chacón, Major of Bogotá, Claudia Nayibe López Hernández, Honorable Senators and representative of some my colleagues, distinguished governors and mayors, presidents of syndicates, enterprises, officers, marshals, soldiers of a country, and civil personnel at the service of the military forces, police officers, social leaders, representatives of the academic community, artistic community, and all the spokesmen of the different regions of the country here with us, directors of the symphonic and philharmonic orchestras of all the countries, to my wife, Verónica Alcocer, to her mother, to my father, my mother Clara, my father Gustavo, Nicolás, Andrea, Sofía, Antonella, directors and journalists of national and international media, and the most important, the people of Colombia. To be here, together with his sword, it's a lifetime for me. This sword represents too much for us. And I won't allow it to be buried or retained anymore. That it only goes into its sheath when justice comes to this country. Let it be the people. Let this become the sword of the people. And that's why we want it here, in this moment and in this place. Maybe for next presidents of Colombia, when they take office, it becomes a fact, a permanent protocol fact, that this sword accompanies them. The liberating sword of Bolivar. Here has undoubtedly meant to walk through an immense life that we can never walk it alone. Here is my mother Clara and my father Gustavo from the Caribbean. My siblings Adriana and Juan. My children Nicolás, Andrés, Andrea, Sofia and Antonella. My little ones that flower. Here it is Verónica Alcocer, who has been my partner, who has given me descendants and life itself, and with whom love has made everything possible. She's not here to accompany me only, but also to accompany Colombian women in their efforts to move on, to create, to fight, to make, to overcome violence within families, to build the politics of love. Here she is, as in my way, the humble hands of the workers, the farmers. Here we have the hearts of work, the illusions of the ones who suffer, the working women who has embraced me always. When I vanish, when I fade, when I feel weak, the love of the people, the love for the people, for excluded people. It's this love, the one that keeps me here standing to unite a nation. I almost finished 100 of Solitude from our beloved Gabriel García Márquez. Everything written in it, it couldn't be repeated, always, because the bloodlines condemned to 100 of years of solitude didn't have a second opportunity on this earth. Colombians have been many times in our history sent to the condemn of the impossible, to the lack of opportunities, to absolute no's. I want to tell you all, Colombians that are listening to me in this Bolivar Square, in the surrounding areas, and in all Colombia, and outside that, today our second opportunity begins. We have earned it. You have earned it. Your effort is and will be worth it. It's the time for change, and our future is not written. We are the owners of the paper, and we can write it together in peace and union. Today, the Colombia of the possible begins. We are here against all odds, against a history that said that we were never going to be able. against the ones who did not want to let power go, but we did it. We made the impossible possible. Walking and listening with ideas, with love, with the brain and with the heart, with effort. From this day forward, we begin to work to make more impossible possible in Colombia. If we could, we're going to be able to do it. May peace be possible. We need to finish once and for all with 6 decades of violence and armed conflict. I would say with 2 centuries of permanent war, an eternal war in Colombia. It's possible. We will achieve the peace agreement. We will follow to the letter the recommendations of this Commission of Peace. It depends on what date we begin to make the accountings. When this Commission of Truth counted to this day 100,000 dead per people because of violence, dead Colombians, most of them humble people. We cannot afford to continue being the country of death. We need to build the country of life, and we will work to bring peace to every corner of Colombia. This is the government of the life, of peace, and that's how it will be remembered. Peace is possible if we achieve in every region of Colombia social dialogue, to express ourselves and to be listened, to seek through reason common ways of coexistence. The whole society must dialogue about how not to kill each other and how to make progress. The binding national dialogues, we summoned all unarmed people to find the ways that allow peaceful coexistence. It doesn't matter the conflicts that still exist there. It's precisely about try to give them a solution through the word. More democracy, more participation. What I propose to end with violence. But we also summon all the armed men to leave, to cast weapons aside in the clouds of the past, in change of peace, in change of the no repetition of violence, to work as the owner of a prosperous economy that ends up with the misery of missions. May peace reign over Colombia. We need to dialogue a lot, to understand each other, to seek for the common ways, to produce changes. Paz implies that we change. Of course, peace is possible. The politics against drugs, seen as a war, called drugs, war on drugs, by politics of a strong prevention of consumption in society. It's a new worldwide convention that accepts that the war on drugs has failed, has soundly failed, that has left 1 million Latin Americans murdered, most of them Colombian. during these last 40 years, and that leaves 70,000 North Americans dead because of drugs, none of which are produced in Latin America. Drugs encourage mobs. War on drugs has led states to commit crimes. Our state has committed crimes, has evaporated the horizon of democracy. Let's hope. Are we going to wait another million Latin Americans fall murdered, and that the annual dead rise up to 200,000? Are we going to wait that the next 40 years another million Latin Americans fall dead and 2,800,000 North Americans die for overdoses? Or we better change the failure by success that allows that Colombia and Latin America are able to live in peace. The moment has come for changing the anti-drugs policies in the world, so life emerges and death goes away. They tell us they want to support us in peace over and over again. So change the anti-drugs policies, because it's in your hands in the United Nations. May equality be possible. 10% of Colombian population owns 70% of the riches. It is unbalanced, and it's a true disgrace. Let us not make misery and poverty a natural thing. It is not true that in most of the countries of the world this inequity, this social inequity exists. We are one of the most socially unequal societies in all the planet Earth, and that's and we cannot afford continuing being so. Let us not turn our eyes elsewhere. Let us not be accomplices. With the justice program, we're going to be a Colombia that offers more opportunities for everybody. Equality is possible if we're able to create riches, generate riches for everybody. And if we're able to distribute these riches, that's why we propose an economy based on production, work and knowledge. That's why we propose a tribute reform that generates justice. Take a part of his riches to open the doors of education of every child and young person. It shouldn't be looked at as a punishment. It's just the solidarity payment that someone fortunate does to a society. If we are able to carry a part of these riches created to the underfed children by something so simple as to pay our taxes, we will be more just and we will be in peace. It's not just about charity. It's about human solidarity. Solidarity has allowed people to survive, and one of the greatest conquerors of culture and civilization. We haven't advanced as humanity competing. We have done it helping each other. That's why we are alive on this planet. Are we going to be equal when the ones that have the most shares with the less fortunate, with children, boys, girls, young people, young men, women, old people? The education of the brain, of the soul, the solidarity. It's a tax. It's in the tax that pays the one who can afford to pay it. The state expense is not for the political mobs, it's for the people. That's why we have stated a tribute reform, a reform of health and pensions, a reform of labor hiring, a reform on education. That's why we have prioritized in our budget the education infrastructure and health, the drinking water, the neighborhood roads. Taxes are going to be just in a country that must recognize as an abomination the huge inequity that we live in a state that must reflect the transparency of the expensive, in a society that deserves to live in peace. Be in a society of knowledge, a society in which all its inhabitants have the maximum of scholarship and culture. It's not an utopia. Poorest peoples than ours are now societies of knowledge because they did great advancement in public education. The time has come to pay the debt we have with our education, to have a quality education. The moment has come to be conscious that today hunger advances all over the world because a food security idea that we had crumbled. International commerce in itself is neither positive nor negative. But if it's not planned, it can destroy economies and lives. The world now learns the importance of food sovereignty. Food sovereignty is the guarantee of that every society must have to consume its nutrients. Colombia must and is able to enjoy food sovereignty, to eliminate hunger. A mission of the state, with all the private sector that wants to join, must guarantee the full healthy feeding of the whole Colombian society and achieve products for export. The land in which humanity discovered corn, we must once again produce corn. The state must provide technology to the farmers and private enterprises to make our fields produce again the food we need. We are going to build irrigation districts again with the armies and neighboring roads with the soldiers of a country. They can join in a new social ethics. Helicopters and planes are not only used to bombard or shoot. They are also used to create the first introduction of mobility in preventive health for Colombian people. Only if we produce, we're going to be rich and prosperous as a society. The riches are in the work. That's why from this day forward, all the commodities are going to be part of a new productive economy administered by farming organization, by young people's cooperatives, and by female popular organizations. We cannot allow that women have less job opportunities and they make less money than men. That they need to devote triple or quadruple the hours of home laborers. That they have a minor representation in our institutions. The time has come to fight all these inequities and to even the scale. A green future is possible. Climate change is a reality. And it is urgent. This is not about rights and lefts. This is about science. We need and must find a sustainable model of new society. There's only one future possible if we find balance, our economy and our lives with nature. Science has announced the possible extinction of the human species in the next 2 centuries as a result of a climate crisis. COVID pandemic has shown humanity the real alert of this possibility. That's why from this Colombia we ask the world action rather than a hypocrisy. We are willing to move to an economy without hydrocarbons and oil. But this is very little help to humanity. We are not the ones who emit these gases. The rich people of the world do it. But we have major absorption sponge of these gases. Amazonian forest, one of the pillars of the climatic equilibrium on the planet is the Amazonic forest. Are we going to let this forest to be destroyed to reach a non-return point? Or are we going to save it with humanity itself that wants to continue living in this earth? Where is the World Fund to save the Amazonic forest? Speeches are not going to do it. We can turn all the population that live in the Amazonic Colombia in protectors of this forest. If it's so hard to make this money, May the green bonuses, they should give to save something so important. I propose humanity to transform the external debt into internal expenses, to save our forest. We are going to use this money to save human life. If the International Monetary Fund helps, we are going to have a new prosperous economy and new life for humanity. Excuses must end. Today, the Colombia of the possible begins. Today, our second opportunity begins. From this day forward, I'm the president of all Colombia and all Colombians. It is my wish and my duty. Colombia is not only Bogota. The government of the change is going to be decentralized. I promise that we're going to work all over the country, from Leticias to Punta Gallina, from Cabo Manglares to Isla San Jose. It hurts the absence of the state in a lot of points in the country. Not anymore. I'm going to work so your birthplace is not a condition in your life. I thank the presence of presidents and other representatives of our brethren peoples of Latin America. We see keen nations kill each other in the heart of Colombia, in the heart of Latin America. So, tens of presidents with ideological diversity, but all united, sharing this true party of democracy. The time has come to abandon the blocks, the groups, and the ideological differences, to work together. We need to understand once and for all that we have more things that unite us than the ones that separate us, and together we stand stronger. This reality with whom our heroes Bolivar, San Martin, Sucre, O'Higgins dreamt is not utopic, it's not romantic. It's a way to become strong in this complex world. If we are a power of knowledge, if we are power of economy, if we are the power of life, if we act together, the voice of Latin America will be heard in the concert of the people of the world. We need to stand together today more than ever before. As Simon Bolivar once said, the union must save us. As division shall destroy us, if it ever happens amongst us. Latin America cannot be divided, but Latin American union cannot be just rhetorical or just speech. We just lived perhaps the worst part of COVID, and Latin America was not able to coordinate to buy the cheapest vaccines. Are we going to have a Latin America without that's not able to make scientific research, without coordination, the buying of medicines. Latin America comes together in some institution, but not in concrete projects. Have we even managed to connect all our energy webs? There's an energy. Is there an energy web that covers the whole Latin America? Have we accomplished that our energy sources are clean? Is it not time to urge the oil companies, both public and from the state, to build the financial instrument in Latin America that directs investment in clean energy and distributes this energy all over the continent? Colombia emphasizes in reaching the most ambitious agreement possible to stop climate change and defend global peace. We don't want that any country invades another. We are not in favor of war. We are in favor of life. We will seek major alliances with Africa, from which we all came from. We're going to seek an alliance of African or Afro origins peoples in the continent, from San Andres, from its root country. All ambassadors, all Colombian ambassadors are going to travel to the Antilles. We're going to seek an alliance with the Arabic world as we travel to the new decarbonized economies. We are going to seek for alliances with the Asian East. Our anthem, that's one of the most beautiful ones in the world. Feel or suffer. Colombia has accumulated centuries of pain. A mother that cannot feed her children suffers from it. A grandmother that has no pension suffers from it. The Colombia we dream about, the Colombia we want, the Colombia we deserve, is the Colombia we want to feel. The vibrating Colombia that makes efforts, that works to reach peace, that wants a prosperous land with equal opportunities for everybody, despite your birthplace, despite your parents' last name, or the color of your skin. That's the Colombia we want to feel, and for the one we're going to work until the last day of our mandate. In this first speech as President of Colombia, in front of the legislative power and in front of my people, I want to share my commitment. I have 10 commitments. First, I shall work to manage true peace and definite peace, as no one did before. We are going to reach the peace agreement on the recommendation of the Commission for Truth. The government of life is the government of peace. The peace is the sense of my life, is the hope of Colombia. We cannot fail Colombian society. The dead deserve it. The living need it. Life must be the basis of peace. A just and secure and safe life. A life to be lived happily. So the joy and progress be our identity. 2, I will look after our elderly, our children, of people with disabilities. I will look after people that history or society have marginalized. We will create a caring policy so no one is left behind. We are a solidarity, we are a humane society that looks after people. We're going to create a sensitive policy to suffering with tools. 3, I will rule for and with women in Colombia. Today, a new government begins with the Ministry of Equality, with our Vice President, Francia Marquez. We're going to work so gender is not a reason for the wages you make. We want to be the reason for Colombian women can walk in peace and they don't need to fear. 4, I will dialogue with everybody, no exception. This is going to be an open door government for all those who want to dialogue about Colombia's problems. Wherever he comes, whomever he or she is, we are united by a will of future, not divided by the weight of the past. We need to set the compass for the future Colombia. The agreements are going to be my objective. 5, I will listen to Colombians as I have for all this year. We cannot rule at distance, disconnected from the reality of the people. On the contrary, you need to rule by listening. We're going to design mechanisms and dynamics for all Colombians can feel that we are listening to them. I shall not be trapped within the curtains of bureaucracy. I will walk side by side all Colombians all over in all corners of the country. As a coffee farmer of Anselma, as a fisherman of the Magdalena River, only if we are close can we understand and be in other shoes. 6, I will defend the Colombians from the violence, and I will work to make families feel sure again. We will do it with a comprehensive security strategy, with the human security. Colombia needs a strategy that covers preventive programs, the persecution of criminal structures, and modernization of security forces. Save lives are going to be our main success indicator. Security is measured in lives, not in debt. When security is measured in debt, they make the state criminal, and this is not a criminal state. This is a social and rights state. Crime can be fought against in many ways, all of them important. I want to defend Colombian families from insecurity on daily basis, from chauvinist violence or any other violence. 7, I will fight against corruption with an iron hand and a government of zero tolerance. We're going to recover what they stole. We're going to watch over so never again the system can be transformed and to discourage this practice. No family, no friends, no colleagues or collaborators. No one is exempted of the weight and the reach of law, the commitment against corruption, and the determination to fight against it. From this day forward, the intelligence bodies of state are not going to go after the opposition and the free press or the judicial power or the ones who think differently. The main goal of the state intelligence is to locate and fight corruption. 8. I will protect our soil and subsoil, our seas and rivers, our air and heaven, our landscapes that makes us very proud, and that's why I will not allow that the greed of a few endangers our biodiversity. We are going to face it. The deforestation, uncontrolled deforestation in our forests, and we're going to advance the development of clean energies. Colombia will be a world power of life. The planet Earth is the common house of all human beings, and Colombia, from its enormous natural reach, is going to be a leader in this fight. 9. I will develop the national industry, the popular economy, and the Colombian field. We will prioritize the farmer women, the micro businessmen. But our invitation is to produce, to work, to be conscious that we're only going to be a rich society if we work. And the work, it's property of the brain, the human intelligence. We are going to accompany and support everyone who makes an effort for Colombia, the farmer, the artisan who keeps our culture alive, the businessmen and women that creates jobs, the worker, the cultural worker that builds the sensibility of human society. The science, culture, and knowledge is a fuel, it's a true fuel of the 21st century. We're going to develop society of knowledge and technology. 10. I will abide by our Constitution, and I will enforce it too. Article 1. Colombia is a state, is a social state of right, organized as a decentralized unitarian republic with an autonomy of its territorial authority, democratic, pluralist, founded in the respect of the human dignity, in the work and solidarity of people, and the prevalence of general interest. We will also develop a new legal framework to make our development just, sustainable, and the law, as Paola Flores Arcaiz is the power of the ones with no power. We need better laws, new laws at the service of the great majorities, and we need to guarantee its enforcement. I trust that the debates of our Congress of the Republic be fruitful and it offers results for Colombian society. There are many tasks, and I entirely trust in the new representative of the Colombian society in the Congress, new and old. Finally, I will unite Colombia. We will unite Colombia. We need to stop. We need to say stop to division. I don't want two countries. I don't want two societies. I want a strong Colombia, just and united. The challenges that we have as a nation demand a unity period and basic concept. It is our responsibility. I finish with the words of an Arawak girl told me in the symbolic ancestral ceremony in the heart of the work as the children of Sierra Nevada Santa Marta Cell, to bring harmony in life, to unify the peoples, to heal humanity, feeling the pain of my people, this message of light and truth spread through your veins, she told me, through your heart, and becomes in years of pardon and reconciliation, but first in our hearts, first in my heart. Thank you. This second chance is for the Arawak girl and for all children of Colombia, Colombian children. We have a second chance under the skies of the earth. Thank you.
Terminó con lo último que dijo Daniela. Niños y niñas, tenemos una segunda oportunidad bajo los cielos. Un mensaje muy emotivo del nuevo presidente de la República, un mensaje de unión, por supuesto, de transformaciones.
We just heard the first words of President Gustavo Petro as President of Colombia as he addressed the nation for the first time. During his speech, he made reference to the main issues that they want to solve, especially security, prosperity, and equality. President Gustavo Petro has a 10-point program, a plan designed the 10 main objectives that he wants to fulfill in his terms in office.
El segundo de ese discurso, de este decálogo, es cuidaré a los abuelos, abuelas, niñas, también a personas en condición de discapacidad, con políticas de cuidados para quienes...
Today was a very important ceremony. Today is a day of change for Colombia, a historic day of change for Colombia as it goes forward in this new path, in this new government that for the first time in history is a lefty progressive government. Petro said he wants to address issue of gender equality so that women can walk safely the streets of Colombia without fear for their life. Petro also wants unity not only inside Colombia, but also in Latin America as a whole, to face current issues and the ones to come in the future, but also wants to enhance relationships of Colombia with other parts of the world, with Africa, with the East of Asia, with all different actors to make sure that the country, Colombia, can be a prosperous country, a symbol of the region.
impulsar el desarrollo de las energías limpias.
Su noveno compromiso, desarrollar la industria nacional, la economía popular, el campo colombiano sin distinciones ni preferencias y además dentro de eso priorizar
that gathered here today at Bolivar Square to celebrate together with Petro as he was sworn in to the presidency of the country. People are excited for the changes that can come at the future of Colombia. We're seeing now how the sword of Simón Bolívar is being removed from the ceremony stands. It's going to be taken back to the Casa de Nariño, the government house, with the president's leave.
Su propósito para que estudien reforma tributaria, corrijo, para que estudien y reciban nutrición, que esta reforma tributaria no debe ser vista como un castigo.
Habló también algo muy importante sobre la paz. Seguro que la paz es posible si se cambia la política contra las drogas por una política de prevención del consumo. La guerra contra las drogas, ha dicho el presidente, pues ha fracasado rotundamente.
And like this, the ceremony has come to an end. We are seeing how Gustavo Petro is leaving the stands together with his family. He's taking hands with his wife, who he said was a very important figure throughout his life. He's followed by his sons. A new Colombia is dawning today, a Colombia that might bring change, that might bring a better future for the many that have been forgotten by previous governments.
Dijo también que cumplirá el acuerdo de paz y seguirá a rajatabla el informe de la Comisión de la Verdad. También aseguró el mandatario de los colombianos, no podemos seguir en el país de la muerte.
Gustavo Petro during his speech made important emphasis on the environment and how the development of the country has to come tied together with the environment, since we only have one home, which is our planet Earth. And that's his main objective also, to make sure that the environment in the Amazonia, for example, is well taken care of, that all those areas are protected, that Colombia's water are protected.
Ofreciendo, por supuesto, por parte del gobierno nacional beneficios públicos y así alcanzar la paz total que busca el presidente Gustavo Petro.
Pues esos vienen siendo esos puntos fundamentales, José Fernando, de este discurso del presidente Gustavo Petro Urrego, donde ha tocado temas de educación, de salud, de la reforma tributaria, también un poco el refuerzo del discurso sobre la paz, y vamos a conectarnos con John López y Luisa Barberi, que están desde la Plaza de Bolívar en el IDC, puntualmente IDC, para que nos cuenten un poco más de lo que están viviendo en este momento.
Gustavo Petro continues his walk among the people, moving throughout the crowds, greeting all those present here, following the sword of Bolivar that is leading the march. As they leave from the square where the ceremony was held.
Compañeros que están ahí en la Plaza de Bolívar, en el IBC, que está en la alcaldía de Bogotá, vemos en este momento saliendo de nuevo en esa caminata que digamos más temprano, cuando se dirigían hacia la Plaza de Bolívar. En este momento la primera dama caminando al lado del presidente de la República junto a sus hijos, se disponen a irse. Mire, este es el Colegio San Bartolomé, acá al lado derecho de sus pantallas, y van ya a la Casa de Nariño a instalarse como el nuevo presidente de la República.
Y a empezar a trabajar, José Fernando, porque desde ya le toca empezar a trabajar por esos compromisos que hizo hoy con los colombianos y con las colombianas. Además, también lo mencionaba en su discurso, que esta es una segunda oportunidad para ese movimiento, para la izquierda, de poder llegar al poder y de poder poner sus políticas sobre la mesa. Es la hora del cambio, somos dueños del esfero y del papel para escribir el futuro, la paz y la unión, dice el presidente de la República. Además mencionaba que contra todo pronóstico y contra, digamos, un poco lo que la historia ha estipulado, pues van a gobernar.
Que la igualdad sea posible, que no naturalicemos la desigualdad y la pobreza, políticas de redistribución, un programa de justicia, con eso van a generar riqueza.
The sword of Simón Bolívar, in tow with President Petro, Gustavo Petro and his families, continues their march leaving the square, heading towards the Casa de Nariño after the swearing-in ceremony. that was held today here in Bogota, in Colombia. A swearing-in ceremony that is marked by history, a history of change, of a new and bright future for Colombia. People gathered joyful to celebrate the coming of the new government. For the first time in Colombia's history, a leftist progressive government that's already sought to work together with the rest of Latin America to reach consensus and to work together to solve, to face the issues that the region and the world is facing. Food security is on the table. Plans to fight up in future pandemics as COVID-19 to be better prepared to face this type of health issues are also on the table. Gustavo Petro described that Latin American unity must be a reality and not only something that is said in speeches. He described how Latin America struggled to face the current pandemic and how this should not happen again if all governments of the regions unite. As we were saying, the environment is also a main pillar of Petro's government. To make sure that the development of society in Colombia comes hand in hand with the preservation of the environment. Petro also made a lot of emphasis on peace. The country that they want to build, that him together with Francia Marquez and the people, the country that they want to achieve, a country of peace and life, that people feel safe to be on the streets, that people do not fear for their lives, and a country that is not divided but united under common goals and objectives. We continue to see the presidential family walking right behind the Simón Bolívar sword as they head to the Casa Nariño, where presidents live in Colombia and the government is run. The people of Colombia came out to the streets today to celebrate this joyful day, this historic day. Not only here in Bolivar Square, but all over in different parts of the city, of the capital in Bogota, but other parts of the country. There were several cultural activities and events held to celebrate the change in Colombia's government.
Cuando él llegó a la tarima de la Plaza Simón Bolívar a saludar a todos los invitados, a las comitivas internacionales y a los líderes del mundo. Pasan en este momento justo por el frente del nuevo edificio del Congreso. Ahí van a llegar a la Plaza de Armas, donde en este momento
Petro's government will have crucial challenges that they plan to face together with Francia Marquez and the people. The first thing will be the implementation of the peace agreements that were signed with the state with the former FARC-EP. They will also have to fight against social inequality, the economic recession, and policies against climate change. During his electoral campaign and also during his speech here, his inaugural speech, Gustavo Petro raised the banners for the vindication of the rights of indigenous and farmer communities, as well as the fight against corruption and guarantees for rights such as health and education, reasons for which the now president won more than 11 million votes, a record in the history of elections in Colombia. The newly sworn-in president must address social inequality, the commercialization of rights such as health and education, which has sparked that labor opportunities and development are going through a complex moment, and even more so now in a context where there are increased cases of COVID-19. Likewise, the situation adds to the lack of guarantees for social leaders who are the main victims of the social and armed conflict. In addition to the persecution of social leaders by regular armed groups, the country also faces the grim phenomenon of massacres, especially perpetrated in rural territories. According to INDEPA's data from 2018 to date, There are reports of more than 313 massacres registered in different parts of Colombia, which have over 1,200 fatal victims. In other fields, the Minister of Education, appointed by Petro, Alejandro Gaviria, emphasized that the new government will guarantee access to science, especially in rural areas. At the same time, he announced that the report of the Truth Commission, which reviews the abuses committed in the conflict, will be made known in schools and colleges in favor of the truth of Colombian history. Gustavo Petro emphasized during his campaign and during his inaugural speech that he will work for the strengthening of the productive engines of the country. Among his measures is the protection of agriculture and increase of import rates. The now President of Colombia asserts that the dialogue for reconciliation will focus on businessmen and landowners in order to focus policies towards production to increase access to consumption and employment. The economic crisis unleashed by Ivan Duque's policies and complemented by the COVID-19 pandemic leads to an unemployment rate of 15.2% in the last year, with rural areas having the highest unemployment. As
Destacamento al hombro. ¡Arre! Descansen. ¡Arre!
Homenaje a los héroes de las fuerzas militares y de la Policía Nacional, caídos en el cumplimiento del deber. Invitamos a todos los asistentes a elevar plegarias al Todopoderoso para asegurarles a nuestros héroes su descanso eterno y la permanencia a la diestra del Señor, Dios de los ejércitos.
Gods of the armies, for all our heroes, fallen in their duty, grant them peace.
Destacamento a discreción.
And President Gustavo Petro has just arrived to the Casa de Nariño, where the government is headed. Upon arriving, the military did all the honors to welcome the new president of Colombia. Now we're seeing images as the outgoing president, Iván Duque, leaves the house after welcoming Gustavo Petro and his families to it.
De esta manera la transición de mando, ya vimos el saludo del presidente saliente Iván Duque y su esposa María Juliana Ruiz a los nuevos inquilinos. El primer presidente de izquierda que llega a Nariño.
Sí, señores, veíamos entonces la transición. Llega ahora el presidente Gustavo Petro con su esposa Verónica.
So like this is official, the first leftist government, progressive government, enters the House of Nariño, and outgoing far-right president Iván Duque leaves the house. We are seeing images as him and his family leave the House of Nariño. With this, Colombia ushers in a new era, the era of Petro and Francia Márquez.
Iván Duque Márquez junto con la ex primera dama María Juliana Ruiz caminan por ahí por la Plaza de Armas. Saluda a las fuerzas militares por última vez antes de dejar el Palacio de Nariño.
Va rodeado además, José Fernando, de su equipo más cercano. Ahí lo vemos con quienes trabajó de la mano, el ministro de Defensa, también tenemos la alta consejera para la niñez y las juventudes, entre muchos otros funcionarios que fueron claves para su gobierno de 4 años. Sale entonces el gobierno de Iván Duque Márquez, llega a la Casa de Nariño, llega a Colombia, un nuevo presidente, Gustavo Petro Urrego.
Estamos viendo entonces la familia que llega a ocupar el Palacio de Nariño a partir de hoy.
We see this new family that occupies the House of Nariño from this day on.
5 hijos, 6 hijos.
6
que tiene
children
Gustavo Petro y
that
pues la primera
Gustavo
dama
Petro has
que va a trabajar
with the first lady.
por políticas para la unión y para el
He's
trabajo
going to work
de
for
las familias, ha
policies
dicho el mandatario de los colombianos,
for the union
pues
and the work in
por las
families
mujeres también de nuestro país.
and for
Y
the
están
women
viendo cómo
of
en
the
este momento,
country.
después de la foto protocolaria, la foto
We see that
presidencial
after
al
the
frente
protocol
del Palacio
picture
de Nariño,
in front of a
pues
House of
están,
Nariño,
y además después de los honores militares
and
y
after
de,
the military
el
honors,
recibimiento y el saludo de todas las fuerzas
the military salute.
Mire, y ahí precisamente está entrando en este momento
Precisely.
la espada de Bolívar, que ha sido tan importante símbolo tan
The sword of
importante
Bolivar
en
is
esta posesión
going back to
presidencial,
its
vuelve
rightful
otra
place,
vez a su lugar, mientras que el presidente de la República se toma
while
las fotos
the
y
president
termina este
is
acto
taking
protocolario
some
al lado de
pictures
su
with his
familia,
family, and
de sus hijos,
that way
Andrea
this
Petro,
protocol
Andrés
act
Petro, Antonella
comes
Petro,
to an
Nicolás
end.
Petro y Sofía Petro, y al lado también de su esposa, la primera dama, Verónica
With
Alcocer.
all
¿Qué le parece
his-
si recordamos parte del discurso de Gustavo Petro, donde hablaba
What do you
de la
think if
importancia de una
we
reforma tributaria que genere justicia,
remember
parte de la riqueza de las personas que más ganan a esas personas
And a new Colombian is dawning with this. All the protocol activities have finished. Petro is officially at the House of Nariño. Outgoing President Iván Duque just left with all his committee, all his ministers, and a new future is dawning in Colombia as Petro and his families prepare to enter the House.
Sí, Daniela, justo este es el momento que estaba esperando el país, la entrada ya del presidente Gustavo Petro a la casa de Nariño en compañía de su familia, su esposa Verónica. Ahí está viendo las imágenes de RTVC, sistema de medios públicos, entrando ya a su casa, la casa de Nariño.
As Gustavo Petro enters the house, he is welcomed by the house staff. And this is a new dawn, as we have been repeating, for Colombia, with new objectives and reforms to make the country a better, safer, and more inclusive nation in South America. Gustavo Petro takes office with the mission of transforming the country into a land where the life of dignity, free of violence, and with peace is a paradigm and our priorities, with solid social justice and climate issues, among other core issues. That is why from the very first minute of his term, his government plan will be based on the premise of promoting the transition and laying the foundation for development in terms of eradicating inequality, halting the economic recession, and combating climate change. Petro does not envision this change without a leading presence of women who have been excluded in Colombian society, and to this end, he plans to at least 50% of all public positions at all levels and branches of power to be held by women. The economic projection of the country will be a determining factor for the leader of the historic pact and the implementation of an agrarian and agrarian reform that will boost productivity under social and environmental justice canons that will be essential. The promotion of a public bank as a sponsor of business model and that seeks to benefit micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as the popular rural and urban economy, will also be in the executive sites, taking advantage of the unification of the different financial entities of the state. In addition, a commitment will be made to strengthen the informal popular economy with a pact between this sector and the government, with special lines of microcredit and forgivable credit, as well as its formalization and recognition in order to strengthen organizational, technical, and productive capacities, and to guarantee its growth and sustainability. We continue to see images of Petro and his wife, who he described as an important and paramount figure in his political and personal life, followed by his family as they toured the house of Nariño, where the president and the government is run. The Soto Simón Bolivar has been taken to where his rightful place, and is being presented to the president. Upon arriving to the house of Nariño, the president received all the military honors by the different branches of the military and the police, showing the support of the military for the new government.
Espada de Bolívar, que tuvo ahí varios inconvenientes para poder estar presente en este acto, en esta ceremonia de posesión de Gustavo Petro, pues se dijo que estaban todos los permisos, pero esta espada a la final no pudo estar, pero la primera orden que dio el presidente de los colombianos, Gustavo Petro, inclusive
the delivery of the Soto Bolivar to his rightful place and its security, Petro continues to walk the house of Nariño to discover the new place that is going to be his home for the next 40 years.
una
From this house, Petro will strive to build a new Colombia, a Colombia that is inclusive, with gender equality, a Colombia that cares for the environment and that its development comes hand to hand with the environment, for which he will start working on policies to protect the Amazon and the waters of Colombia.
Y bueno, pues él sigue, continúa con su recorrido, su familia detrás de él sigue saludando a todas las personas que hacen parte de el que es ahora su nuevo equipo.
Peace and dialogues are going to be at the center of this new government. Petro has said that his government is going to have its doors wide open to talk with anyone, no matter who they are or who they come from. For, as in his own words, it doesn't matter where you come from, what matters is where we are going. And where Petro wants to take Colombia is to a new place, a place that of a Colombia united. He just said in his inaugural speech that he's not interested in being the president of two Colombias. He wants a Colombia that comes together in peace and harmony.
Donde estuvo durante el mandato del expresidente Iván Duque y que él dijo, no, por favor me la sacan que la quiero aquí para mi discurso, por favor. También recordar muy importante algunos de los puntos claves del discurso.
During his 4-year term, Petro hopes to create new alliances of Colombia with other regions, making special focus on Africa and the east of Asia, to create new prosperous trade treaties for the benefit of the peoples of Colombia and of those parts of the world.
Reforma de contrato laboral y reforma a la educación. Un tema para ellos también muy importante es garantizarle a todos los colombianos, a los niños y a los jóvenes una educación superior de calidad. Otro de los temas que está sobre la mesa y pues que obviamente estará encabezado por la vicepresidenta Francia Márquez es la igualdad de género, de que las mujeres tengan la misma participación en los diferentes escenarios, no solo políticos, sino también en las empresas y organizaciones. Otro de los temas fundamentales en este discurso del presidente Gustavo Petro fue lo relacionado con el medio ambiente, la biodiversidad, la conservación, cambio climático. Es un tema que está por supuesto muy en agenda y también en agenda bilateral con otros países y con esos compromisos que deben de tener los países en cuanto al cambio climático y al medio ambiente.
As we were saying, Francia Márquez just passed in front of this beautiful painting of Simón Bolívar at the House of Nariño. Francia Márquez, who is the first Afro-Colombian vice president of the country, and has already been working to strive for unity in Latin America. Let us remember that after the election, she toured different countries of the region to bring the government of Colombia, the new government of Colombia, closer to those countries and create new bilateral ties and strengthen the ones that existed. For Gustavo Petro, unity in Latin America is of the utmost importance to face the issues that our region is currently facing, but also the issues that will arise in the future.
Completamente tramitada y aprobada. Recordamos también va a hacerse o a tomar posesión Álvaro Leiva como el ministro de Relaciones Exteriores, como canciller de Colombia, Iván Velázquez Gómez como ministro de Defensa, Alejandro Gaviria como ministro de Educación y recordemos otros nombramientos.
An important day today without doubt in Colombia as a new government dawns and with hopes for the people of change, of important change in the nation regarding peace, the economy, gender equality, and prosperity, especially in rural and urban areas which have been long forgotten by previous administrations and where insecurity has been a main factor. We continue to see images from inside the we continue to see images from the inside of the house of Nariño, as both Francia Márquez, who we are seeing on screen, and Gustavo Petro, the newly sworn-in president, are in the house.
De Gustavo Petro como presidente de la República, los nombramientos corresponden al Ministerio de Vivienda y al Ministerio
He will have. They're going to.
Completamente de acuerdo con todo. Esta es la situación a esta hora aquí en el centro.
This is the situation we're having right now. We haven't had any public